All right. Hello, friends, and welcome to day 2 of the 14 Days with You demo. In the previous day, we ended with me inviting Ren into my house and making him sleep on the couch, which may or may not be a bad decision, depending on how this goes. So let's hop into this and let's see what happened, if anything, in the middle of the night, and what's gonna happen next on day 2 of us knowing Ren. Waking up to the sounds of birds chirping outside and the sunlight filtering through my blinds, I groggily rub my eyes before absent-mindedly staring at the ceiling for a few moments. A lot had occurred last night, and I still needed to process most of it. But the main thing that plagued my mind was the stranger I let into my apartment last night. Was he still here? I'd hope so. It'd be kind of weird if he left in the middle of the day. Can I check social media again? New episode, don't talk to me right now. No, violets are not blue. I'm not me without my coffee. Oh god, oh boy, oh my god. Missing a wallet? CBL reception. And then these two are the same, okay. Very intrigued by it. Slipping out of my bed, I smooth out the wrinkles in my pajamas to make myself look more presentable before heading out into the hallway. I don't have to make it that far before I catch the familiar glimpse of pink in my vision, and I walk out to see Ren already awake and neatly stacking his pillows and blanket away. Morning, Angel. Sleep well? I don't think anyone came by last night, but your neighbor, she's kind of loud, isn't she? Ah, Ren must have heard her gaming away on her computer at 2 a.m., like usual. As if to apologize on her behalf, I offer Ren a sympathetic smile before coming to help him move the pillows back into their rightful spot. Yeah, sorry about that. I usually don't mind since I'm also awake at that time, but I forgot that you'd be able to hear Violet from here as well. Oh, it's no trouble. It's just, it was odd to hear at first. She doesn't really give off that vibe, you know? Yeah, I get what you're saying. She isn't really the type to. Apparently, Ren's stomach wanted to join in on the conversation. Sheepishly, he covers his mouth with the sleeve of his sweater and turns away. But now that I was up close, I could make out the faint dark circles under his eyes, and immediately started to feel bad. I don't. So he was hungry and he didn't get much sleep last night. I must have been a terrible host. I had to make up for this somehow. Sorry, I don't know why it made that noise. I'm not hungry or anything. Why don't I make us something to eat? Oh, it's okay. Don't worry about it. I wouldn't want to be a bother anyway. Actually, why don't we go out for breakfast instead? Why? Because you know that the main character can't fucking cook? I think that cafe by the pair is open to the public now. I don't know what that accent was. We should check it out. A new cafe? Was he talking about the Driftwood Cafe? I wasn't even aware that it was open to the public yet. Still, taking him out for breakfast was the least I could do to show my gratitude. After all, Ren did make sure that no creeps broke into my apartment again, and he did it all without expecting anything in return. Yeah, sure. Let me get dressed then. I'll just be 2 seconds. Sure, okay. Take your time. I'll wait here. Leaving Ren unattended yet again, I quickly ducked back into my bedroom to change out of my pajamas. I'm sure he's up to something. In the end, Ren and I decided to walk to the cafe together, considering how the weather was perfect and it wasn't that far from my apartment. Turning to my side, I notice how the pink-haired man tries to not so subtly sneak side glances towards me. The arm at his side practically itches to reach out, and if I knew any better, I would have assumed he wanted to hold my hand. But instead, he simply tucks his hands into his pockets and shoots me yet another soft smile. The weather's really nice today, huh? Back to small talk, it seems. Sure is. If I'd known it'd be this nice and sunny, I would have suggested spending the day at the beach instead. Yeah? Yeah, we could go for a swim or maybe even check out the rock pools. It's been a while since I've been there. Oh, that does sound fun. Kit, hey. At the sound of my name being called, I turn on my heels, only to find Leon running up to me with a sports bag full of what I assume to be his volleyball gear. Heyo, Sunfish. It's good to see you out and about this early. I was just on my way to the beach to meet up with Jaehyun and Teo. Want to tag along? And hey, it's Ron, right? Nice to see you again, buddy. Oh, it's Ren, actually. Sunfish? Huh? Oh, yeah. Sunfish is the cheesy nickname Leon gave me when we were kids. I don't really get it either, to be honest. So, Sunfish and Ren, was it? Sorry about that, bud. I'm not too good with names. Faces, too, sometimes. But hey, it's good to see you both again. Doing anything exciting today? If not, you can tag along with me and... We added to the normal nickname. And now it's Angelfish, and I were about to go on a date, actually. Oh, were we? Angelfish? A date? I don't miss the way Ren suddenly pulls my arm closer to his side, nor the way he clings onto me as though I'd suddenly disappear. You're going on dates again, Darl? Good for you. I'm glad to see that you're coming out of your shell again. Take good care of them for me, won't you, bud? What do you think I've been doing ever since you moved away? Like me, Leon barely seems to notice Ren's mumbling as he rests an arm over my shoulder and starts tugging me in the direction of the beach. Ren, on the other hand, still latches onto my arm but doesn't seem to move. I can't believe my little Sunfish is out there in the dating scene again. I feel like a proud father. Oh please, we're basically the same age. I feel like a proud adoptive father. Leon pretends to wipe a tear away from his eyes as he leans further into my shoulder. It was only then that I noticed Ren wasn't following us. Turning around, I reach out to grab his hand instead to tug him along. He immediately seems to perk up at the action and entwines his fingers with mine before falling into step. That's all you need. Just pay attention to him while you're talking to somebody else. Congratulations, you're not gonna get murdered today. Tomorrow, though. Alright, as fun as it is to catch up with my proud adoptive father, who's the same age as me, which makes things kind of weird, Ren and I do need to get going. Oh, yeah, of course. I didn't mean to take up so much of your time. He unhooks his arm from around my shoulder and inclines his head towards the beach one more time. But my offer still stands. If you want to catch up some more, I'll be down at the beach with... Boy, I didn't know that's what you looked like, okay. Speak of the devil. Almost like he appeared from thin air. Theodore? Or rather, Teo emerges from somewhere behind Leon and makes his way towards the three of us. Though unlike most of my friends here in Courland Bay, I actually met Teo in the city a few years ago, back when I used to live there. In fact, it was through our mutual friend Jay. Apparently, they'd both known each other since the beginning of middle school. But even after graduating and moving on to university, the pair were still practically inseparable. According to Jay, Teo would always show up at campus to pay him a visit. Though if I were being honest, I'm sure Teo only did it to antagonize some of the students and staff there. It definitely wasn't out of the ordinary for him to do something like that. Plus, it offered me a lot more insight into the whole assertive yet nonchalant attitude he often liked to put on. The first time I'd ever witnessed it was when Teo found me sitting alone in a cafe. I still remember sitting there slack-jawed as he practically shoved my laptop bag to the side, before sitting down and taking a sip of my drink like it was his own. The satisfied grin from seeing my displeasure said everything, and had he not offered to buy me another drink, I'm almost certain I would have told Teo to get lost and bother someone else. But before I can reminisce any further, I hear the sounds of Teo's footsteps drawing closer, and it pulls me back into the present. I watch as he walks up to us with a confident stride, before he purposefully bumps into Ren with the sole purpose of sending him tumbling into the metal railing behind him. Damn. But luckily Ren manages to catch his footing at the last second, sending Teo an annoyed scowl of his own. Oh crap, sorry about that. I'm not sure how I missed such a brightly colored children's mascot. Alright, there's no need for that here. Despite Leon's tone, Teo barely pays the shorter male any mind, seemingly far more interested in Ren instead. Oh boy. Let me guess, you're dressed up as Benny the Buttercup? My 4-year-old cousin would love you. Oh wait, knock it off, mate. What's your problem? Dunno, what's yours? I could practically feel the tension between the two grow, so I decided to step in. Maybe you should introduce each other first before you try glaring each other to death. Teo, this is Ren. He's my... well... We're dating now. Congratulations. Well, that was certainly one way to put it, especially without bringing it up with me beforehand. At his words, I shoot Ren a confused glance, but the determined look on his face had me biting back my words. Okay. Anyway, this is Teo. He's... Wait, how should I introduce him to Ren? I've never seen this man in my life. I guess he's a friend from this city. Aw, you consider us friends? That's real cute, doll. Are we not friends? You always used to show up and sit next to me whenever I'd visit that cafe near campus. Which is weird because I never told anyone where I was going. Oh? Maybe I wanted to say hi before visiting Goldie. It's on my route to his university, you know? So he wanted to spend time with me before visiting Jay. How uncharacteristically thoughtful of him. Or maybe I was bored and wanted to see what someone with a lower class income does in their free time. Well then, never mind. Just kidding, doll. Besides, you're a bit too boring for my taste. I doubt you'd even be worth hiring a private investigator. Damn. Okay, enough. Look, why don't we just drop this, yeah? You really need to stop trying to pick fights with everyone, mate. Don't get your panties in a twist. I seriously doubt Buttercup's capable of harming a fly. Let alone able to throw a decent punch. You can drop the nickname. Nah, but I think Dollface over here should drop you instead. Besides, the nickname is kinda cute. Matches your style pretty well, don't you think, Buttercup? I could see Ren's hand clench into a fist as he advances towards Teo, but thankfully Leon steps in once more. Seriously, why don't we all cool off, yeah? I think we're getting a bit too heated. Look, we're gonna head down to the beach. I don't miss the way Leon sends Teo a sharp glare. Are you sure you don't want to join us, Kit? I promise to make sure that Teo stays on his best behavior. Sorry, Leon, but I've already made plans with Ren. And I seriously doubt they'll be able to get along. You know how Teo can get. Yeah, you got a point there. Well, alright then. He leans closer to me, almost as if he didn't want the other two eavesdropping. If anything happens, I'll be in the area. Just come find me, okay? Thanks. I give his arm a soft squeeze and turn my attention back to Ren. But by the way he looks at us, I can only assume that he didn't like how close I was standing to my childhood friend. Though that could have also been because Teo was still around, and honestly, I couldn't blame him. Regardless, I reach for his hand once more and tug him towards the cafe, making a point of ignoring Teo's crass words as we went along. I barely notice how Ren's mood immediately changes when my attention is back on him, and he follows along like a lost puppy. We eventually arrive at the Driftwood Cafe, and the smell of fresh pastries and brewed coffee floods my senses as it wafts through the open windows. Just as I had thought, the cafe looked as though it had only recently opened, though it didn't seem as busy or as crowded as I anticipated. Pulling me from my thoughts, Ren ushers me into one of the empty tables before he goes off to make an order with a pleased look on his face. It was a bit strange how he didn't want to look at the menu first, but I chalked it up to him wanting to surprise me. I want to see, I love looking at social media. Missing a wallet? Yeah, that's my wallet! It is not his wallet. BTB spotted at the pier. Lol. Interesting. This weather, I'm sweating. I went right past that, by the way. Okay. Moving on. He's barely gone for 5 minutes before he returns once more, taking a seat in front of me with a huff. A comfortable silence washes over us, and I watch as he absent-mindedly fiddles with the ends of his hair. Was he concerned about what Teo said about his appearance earlier? Maybe it'd be a good idea to take his mind off of it. Hey, Ren. Almost immediately, he perks up with wide eyes. How do you manage to keep your hair so fluffy? It always looks so good. Ren seems to flush instantly at my words, and he sheepishly ducks his head lower to hide his reddening cheeks. You like it? I usually just angle a blow dryer below my chin and blast the heat, and it just stays like that afterwards. Oh, so you don't need to use any products or anything? Not really. Just when I thought he got over his timid personality, it slowly came crawling back. Was this really who he was? Ren must have taken my silence as a lack of response, seeing as he tries striking up another conversation. So, work's going good for you, huh? Finally got that promotion? Yeah, I did. I was honestly surprised when I first got my promotion, considering how I've only moved back here recently. But Eleanor's been really helpful by showing me the ropes and... Wait, how did you know I got promoted? Oh, your coworker told me about it yesterday after you left. Eleanor, right? She seemed really proud of you. Anyway, what were you saying about her showing you the ropes? I barely noticed how he managed to change the conversation back to me, as I recounted all the times Eleanor helped me through my first week of working at the library. It eventually reached the point where I felt like I had been talking for hours, and it wasn't until something caught my eye that I finally stopped. I'm on a mission. Goth style. He also glances out the window and follows my line of sight before landing on the person walking by. I might just have killed this person. They were decked out in head-to-toe heavy makeup, platform boots, okay, that's a little intense, and clothing you'd only find in stores like Not Tropic. Ren's eyes seem to follow their form until they're out of sight, and the impassive look on his face made me curious. Yeah, it is kind of cool. Do you like that kind of style? I always thought you preferred something softer and... Order 25! Oh, that's us. Wait right here, I'll be back. Before I could get a word in, Ren was jumping out of his seat and meandering his way towards the kiosk. Hey, by the way, I know we said that we didn't talk about it, but for those of you who this is your first interaction with this game, do note, like, he's hiding things underneath his clothes right here. And also, like, the earring piercings that there's no jewelry there, but there are, like, the piercings, just the holes. Before I could get a word in, Ren was jumping out of his seat and meandering his way towards the kiosk. It really was a sight to behold, seeing Ren tower over most of the other customers who were waiting in line. Even the cashier herself, who seemed to be at least 6 feet tall, had to crane her neck upwards just to look at him. Damn. But before I could blink twice, Ren was already on his way back with a large tray full of delicious food. He seats himself back in his original spot with a pleased smile and begins to lay out the dishes in front of me. Oh, this is a delicious looking scone. Okay, listen. I went out of the country recently. I went to Italy, and it was so wild seeing them have, like, cake for breakfast. I still don't think that you should have cake for breakfast. And there were, like, also kind of like pies too. I just think it's weird. Sweets like that for breakfast is so weird to me. Also a sugar cookie. Wild. Weird. I'm between the scone and the croissant. I do like a good scone. I guess it doesn't say what kind of scone. And then a chocolate croissant. Again, chocolate. Okay, I'll go with the scone. A delicious looking scone sits next to my beverage, and I almost heard my stomach rumble at the sight. How did Ren know this was my favorite thing to order? Granted, it wasn't like I've been to the Driftwood Cafe before, but this was usually what I'd order at any other cafe. It was honestly like he could read my mind. And what was even more mind-boggling was that he didn't even need to look at the menu beforehand. It was like he just knew. Don't forget your drink. Ren shoots me another gentle smile before placing my drink before me. No way! Another menu! The drink he placed before me was... Whoa! A cup of coffee! A latte. I could tell by that scent that he ordered me a nice warm latte. Just like the ones I usually bring on my way to work sometimes. I hope this is okay. Unfortunately, this cafe doesn't really have much to offer, judging from the menu I saw online. Oh yeah, you looked at the menu online, huh? So that's how he knew what to order. I even tried asking for napkins earlier, but I don't think they heard me. Maybe I should try again. I almost felt bad for him, but I also felt grateful for ordering me something that I'd normally eat at a cafe. Ren makes sure everything is on the table before putting the tray aside, and it was then that I noticed what he'd ordered himself. Do I get to pick as well? On his plate sat a strawberry sweet roll. Oh, yeah, alongside a cup of coffee that was an alarming shade of black. He seems to pick up on my inquisitive stare, as if the innocent tilt of his head was anything to go by. Do you want my meal instead? We can swap if you want. I don't mind. I don't like strawberries, and I will drink black coffee, but I have a feeling that it's like black with nothing, and I do like sugar in my coffee, so no. This was supposed to be a date, right? Deciding to tease him a little, I shoot Ren a sly grin. That's okay, but you could offer me a bite instead. Hello? Excuse me? Ren almost seems to combust on the spot as his cheeks turn red, and he almost chokes on his own spit. He looks down at his food before glancing back at me, only to look down once more to scoop up a bite-sized piece of his food. Great. I watch as Ren's cheeks turn a deep shade of red while he brings his fork closer to me, and not wanting to be seen as a coward, I lean in to take a bite. His eyes widen almost immediately, and he seems hyper-focused on the way my mouth wraps around the fork before I lick my lips and let out a pleased hum. It's yummy. Try some. The pink-haired man seems to have an awkwardly long staring contest with his own fork. You cannot kill the fork. Before scooping up yet another small piece and taking a bite. Ren's cheeks are still scarlet red, and he seems almost fidgety with how his leg keeps bouncing under the table, so I decide to take pity on him and not tease him for it. With a knowing smile, I start digging into my own meal with a pleased hum. Can I check his social media again? No, he's still sweating. I'm not me without my coffee. Well, good news, she's not dead. That's always good. Okay, I want to see later what he posts on social media, but I think that we are a little bit too close to the scene that, like, once the scene ends, he'll post on social media. He's not whipping out his phone right now, you know? With a knowing smile, I start digging into my own meal with a pleased hum. Oh, the scene ends just then. Eventually, we ended up finishing our meals and decided to do a bit of window shopping to pass the time. Hold on. Damn it. I had nothing else to do today, and Ren seemed insistent on spending the rest of his time with me, so I agreed. We passed by a few clothing stores, ice cream stands, surfboard rentals, and many other interesting buildings, though nothing really caught my interest. But just as I thought I'd lost all hope, one store in particular catches my eye. In one of the display windows, I spot this cute little rabbit plushie in the style of Haruko's likeness. Of course, of course. I mean, it even came with his limited edition sorcerer outfit and everything. I couldn't believe they were selling these things here of all places, and at such a cheap price, too. Oh, you're very small. Ren seems to take notice of what I was not so subtly gawking at, but before we could enter the store, the cashier walks in front of the display stand and blocks our view. She drops a box of miscellaneous items at her feet and begins stalking the shelf next to the plushies, before she finally notices us standing by the window. I don't miss the way her eyes widen at Ren, obviously taking an immediate liking to him, and almost shamelessly pushes a strand of hair behind her ears before giving him a small wave. Sneaking a glance at the taller man beside me, I notice how Ren wasn't even paying attention to her, instead keeping himself busy by scratching at his jaw and kicking at the stray cobblestone rocks by his feet. But the cashier seemed adamant about getting Ren's attention, considering how she felt the need to abandon her spot by the shelves and make her way towards us. She's so short in comparison. Hi there, welcome to Seaside Trinkets. My name's Olivia, can I help you with anything? Oh, no, we were just looking around, but thanks for... We recently got some new beachwear merch if you're interested in checking them out. Was she seriously ignoring me? Oh, you kind of look like someone I know. Have we met before? Maybe we went to the same school. Me? I don't think so. Really? I would have definitely remembered a face like yours. Actually, now that I got a good look at you... I watch as she shamelessly takes in Ren's appearance before crossing her arms over her chest and leaning back. You also remind me of one of those characters from a cartoon that's been gaining a lot of traction here. Apparently one of the locations from that show is based on Corlin Bay's main beach. Are you talking about Attack on Giant? Is that the name of it? Then yeah. I don't really know much about those cartoons, but our company recently started selling some stuff for it to entice the tourists. Do you want to come inside and take a look? Actually, do you want my number as well? Here. You had this prepared? Of course. You always need to be ready in case any cuties walk into the store. Well, I wouldn't want to sound like a hypocrite or anything. Ren looks at me with a shy, knowing look before he hesitantly reaches out to take the piece of paper. What did he mean by that? Before I even get a chance to ask, Ren already answers my silent question with red cheeks and a crooked smile. This is embarrassing, but I also had my number prepared for when we met at the library yesterday here, not in front of someone. He reaches into his back pocket and pulls out a folded pink sticky note of his own before handing it to me, alongside Olivia's number as well. Heck yeah, I got her number. Huh? My confusion must have been blatantly obvious since Ren was quick to explain his intentions. With a mischievous grin, he leans closer to whisper into my ear. Maybe we could prank call her later. That'll teach her not to give her number out to strangers. But isn't that what you did with me, Ren? I match his teasing smile with my own. Touché, but I haven't received any prank calls from you, though. You just gave me your number. Wait a second. Don't jinx it. Just as Ren lets out a puff of laughter at my joke, Olivia cuts him off. Hello? I'm still here. Oh, right. Sorry. Anyway, now that you've got my number, I have your number. And I've gotten your attention again, I think it's only fair I show you around the store. I don't do this just for anybody, you know. Ren doesn't seem to answer her initial question, nor does he seem to outright respond to her, and instead casts an inquisitive glance in my direction. It was like he is asking me for my opinion, and I can only assume it was because he knew about my interest in anime. It was thoughtful of him to do that, but I kind of wanted to tell him to tell that rude worker off instead. Wait, did I really want him to do that? What was wrong with me? I'm sure that the cashier just took an interest in him and there was nothing wrong with that. It's not like we were a couple anyway, but we were supposed to be on a date right now and Ren did declare himself my boyfriend earlier. But I just assumed he said that in order to get Teo off my back. Does that mean... Was he feeling the same way as me? Was jealousy on his mind when we talked with Leon and Teo earlier? I wasn't sure about how I felt about this new discovery. Kit? Huh? Do you want to go look at the items? We've still got a bit of time to kill. Here, why don't I show you the most recent stock? We haven't shown this to the general public yet, but I'm sure you'll love it. Without warning, Olivia, was that her name? Reaches out for Ren's arm and practically drags him inside the store. He lets out a surprised sound before leaning back and trying to grab hold of my own arm as well, but I was just out of his reach. There was nothing else I could do but watch as Ren helplessly gets pulled into the store. It's back here in the stockrooms. Usually we don't allow customers downstairs, but you're a real hottie, so I'll let you take a sneak peek. No, actually, I'm good. Don't worry, we won't get caught. I'm sure your partner won't mind if I borrow you for a bit. Interesting, your partner. I'll even throw in some of those cartoon stickers for you. Surely that will make it worth your time. The wink she sends him feels a little excessive, and I honestly wished Ren would just turn around so I could gauge his reaction. But instead, he leans in close to her face and whispers in a hushed tone that I could barely hear from my spot outside the store, but I can hear it, okay? If they weren't set right now, I would have down the stair without a thought. I assume that's if they weren't staring or standing there right now. I would have shoved you down the stairs without a thought. And honestly, they're nothing more I'd rather do. From their current position, it looked as though they were having a really intimate conversation, and I felt the sudden urge to look away. Why was I getting so bothered over this? I know we aren't exactly together, but Ren shouldn't be off flirting with other people while on a date with someone else. Jeez. I would never want to be in a relationship with someone who wasn't considerate of my feelings, and up until now I honestly thought Ren would have had a chance. I guess I was wrong. But still, there was this nagging voice at the back of my head that kept telling me not to give up on him so easily. Ren was the only one who confidently stood his ground when Teo got a bit suggestive, so maybe I should do the same. Would he even mind? Before I can stop myself, my feet start to move on autopilot as I march towards the two of them and reach for Ren's sleeve. I give it a hesitant tug, and I swear I could almost feel the relief wash over his body because of it. Ren's entire demeanor seems to change in that moment, and he turns to me with a relieved smile on his soft features. I don't really have any interest in this store. Can we go somewhere else? Yeah, of course. Wait, hold on. Ren carelessly shoves Olivia's outstretched hand aside and gently places an arm over my shoulder instead. And just like that, he's already guiding me out of the store and back into the busy street. I can hear Olivia sputter out confused sounds as she watches the two of us leave, and I suddenly feel guilty for causing a rift between them. I feel like you should have. No matter how many times I tried to brush it aside, I still couldn't get my mind off of what had just occurred earlier. What if Ren was interested in her? Granted, he probably shouldn't have blatantly flirted with her while on a date with me, but he wasn't exactly the most confident guy. Would he still be able to talk to her again if things didn't work out between us? No, I shouldn't be thinking like that. Peering up to gauge his expression, I noticed how he didn't really look all that upset about leaving her. If anything, he seemed rather content to be walking down the street with his fingers entwined in mine once more. I can feel him give my hand a protective squeeze as he looks down at me with his soft blue eyes, and all my worries somehow melt away. Maybe I did make the right choice after all. It might have been selfish, but it was worth having Ren look at me with such a gentle expression. Eventually, the sun starts to set behind the ocean as Ren and I continue to walk along the beach walk. Most of the conversation was geared towards me and my interests again, but every time I tried to learn more about Ren, he only seemed to divert the conversation back to me once more. But the more I focused on his odd behavior, the more I began to pick up on his social habits as well. I learned that Ren would subtly pick at the sleeves of his cardigan whenever he got nervous, or how he'd scratch at his jaw whenever the conversation strayed down a path he didn't feel comfortable with. His little quirks told me more about himself than the dead-end conversations that only led back to me, and I was content with knowing more about him than I did yesterday. Ren no longer felt like a stranger I had met at the library, but rather someone I could consider a friend. Except friends aren't supposed to get jealous whenever they see them flirt with someone else. Jeez, what was wrong with me? It had barely been 2 days and I was already contemplating whether or not I truly saw Ren in a romantic light. Was I going too fast? All these thoughts were starting to get a bit overwhelming and... Angel, hello? Huh? You're spacing out on me again. There's that look again. He keeps peering down at me with so much adoration in his eyes, and if I didn't know any better, I would think that he was already halfway in love with me. But that was a very conceited thought and probably wasn't even true. Sorry, I was just thinking about things. Are you going to share those things with the rest of the class? He sends me a playful smile and a gentle nudge into my side, and I couldn't help but laugh. When did we become so comfortable with each other? And when did he lose his stutter? It's nothing, really. Maybe a bit embarrassing, but... Well, I was wondering... How do you feel about... My sentence gets cut short when a drop of rain lands on my cheek. Instinctively, I look up and find myself wondering how I didn't notice those dark clouds in the sky sooner. All of a sudden, more droplets fall down, until it's all but pouring rain and forcing everyone in the area to find cover. Over here. Ren doesn't seem to pay much attention when he grabs me by the hand and pulls me underneath one of the awnings of a nearby building. He shields me from the rain with his body, and I couldn't help but feel tiny, God, with the way his arms cage me in as he rests them against the wall. Okay. We look at each other in silence for a brief moment before erupting in laughter. Perhaps it was just because of the adrenaline from all the panicked running, or the fact that Ren's hair was starting to lose its fluffiness, but I couldn't hold back from letting out a fit of giggles. This only seems to spur Ren on as well, until we're both wheezing out of our lungs and gulping down air. I can't remember the last time I ran that fast. Me too. The looming sound of thunder echoes from afar and drowns out our laughter until we're both silent once more. Once we both calm down, Ren moves me further away from the rain before casting a glance behind him. Wait here. I'll buy us an umbrella so we can get out of this rain. But you'll get soaked. 'Tis a sacrifice I'm willing to make. I roll my eyes at his corny joke and send him off with an amused smile. He doesn't look back before he makes a mad dash out into the rain and down the street towards the closest convenience store. Though the rain only seems to get heavier the moment he leaves, and I find myself pressing even further against the wall behind me to avoid the recoil of the rain bouncing off the pavement. There wasn't much for me to do while I waited for Ren to return, aside from watching people scramble around for shelter. And just like that, the carefree sounds of laughter echoing from down the street capture my attention, as I watch Leon, Teo, and Jay all run to cover like their life depended on it. Well, seems as though their beach outing got cut short as well. Glancing back once more, I barely make out the figure of Leon using his bag as a makeshift umbrella as he ducks under one of the awnings of an ice cream stand. All while Teo and Jay trail behind at a leisurely pace, kicking and splashing water at each other in the rain. I had to look away the moment Teo started to remove his shirt, and I had an inkling that it was so he could show off. And knowing Jae-hyun, he'd follow along without a care in the world, because that's what he always does when it came to his friends. A part of me felt like calling out to the group to see if I could wait out the storm alongside them, but they all seemed to be enjoying themselves, and I didn't want to get in between that. Plus, I did promise Ren that I'd wait for him here. Even if he was taking his sweet time. Was he ever going to return? There was still no sign of him or his comfy-looking cardigan, and I was beginning to wonder if he really did ditch me. After all, it must have been more than 15 minutes by now. What if he got caught up with something? Or what if he went back to see that cashier lady again? Her store did happen to be on the same street, but after spending the afternoon with Ren and getting to know him, I concluded that he wasn't the type of person to do such a thing. Plus, that'd be a really low blow considering that he was the one who offered to take me out on a date today. Although if I was being honest with myself, it did seem as though they had chemistry. Especially with how she looked at him and touched his arm and thought it was the most natural thing in the world. She apparently knew him as well, or at least he looked recognizable enough. That thought made my blood boil. Thankfully, the rain was there to cool me off, as well as soak the ends of my outfit and make everything feel damp and uncomfortable. Was Ren coming back? It shouldn't take this long to buy an umbrella. Interesting. I want to say wait because I want to know how long this would take. Maybe something did come up. I'm sure he'll come back. And then, next scene that we see, it's midnight. And as if on cue, I spot a familiar patch of pink hair, and from within the misty rain, frantically sprinting with an umbrella in one hand and a bag under the other. Oh, you actually did come back. Angel? Kit? Ah. He almost slams into me before stopping just in time, and I could tell by the way he was wheezing that he ran all the way back here without stopping. Sorry, I thought I almost lost you there for a second. It's so hard to see in this weather. Jeez, Ren, what took you so long? I almost wanted to cuss him out for taking well over 20 minutes just to buy a single umbrella, but the genuinely apologetic look on his features made me hold my tongue. Sorry, I ran into your friends from earlier, which took forever for me to shake them off. Okay. And then the convenience store ended up closing early due to the sudden weather change. So then I had to go on that awful souvenir shop with that obnoxious and clingy cashier again, and he was talking a mile a minute, and I was worried he'd end up biting his tongue. Gently, I raise a hand to signal him to calm down, and his intense monologue soon comes to a halt. I'm really sorry about making you wait so long, but ta-da! I did manage to get an umbrella, among other things as well. He gives it a small twirl in his hands, sending droplets of water all over the place. We can start heading back home now if you want, unless you want to go somewhere specific. We could go to your apartment. I don't think that he liked that. I kind of want to know what his reaction would be, but then I'll go back. Really? It's not that far away. Anyway, we could wait out the storm there if you'd like. Ooh! I even have a heater and a dryer we could use. Oh, I thought that he wouldn't enjoy that. The image of me sitting in front of a warm, cozy heater was too hard to resist, so I ended up eagerly stepping under Ren's umbrella while he leads the way. Yippee! Despite the heavy downpour of rain, we managed to make it to Ren's apartment complex in one piece. I guess he really wasn't lying when he said his apartment wasn't far from mine. Oh boy, I can't read. But judging from the pristine interior and fully functioning elevators, oh my god, his apartment's better, I'm moving in. His building seems to be in far better shape compared to mine. The elevator ride could have been a little less awkward though if it weren't for the slow ascent and tacky music. Or for the fact that Ren deemed it appropriate to shake his hair like a wet dog and get water droplets everywhere. Once the elevator doors slid open, I was immediately met with a grandiose corridor and large, spacious doors, and I found myself wondering how much it'd cost to live in a place like this. Don't look too hard at how messy my place is, okay? I wasn't expecting to have someone over today, so I didn't bother cleaning up. I'm getting a weird sense of deja vu. Thankfully, I don't have any white-haired neighbors who like to take their plants on walks. Actually, now that I think about it, it's a bit strange, but no one lives on this floor aside from me. I'm not really sure why, but I'm not going to complain. I can make as much noise as I want and no one would notice. Okay. Ren shoots me a mischievous grin, and I find myself wondering what he meant by that. Like, loud music and stuff? Movies? Yeah, something like that. He unlocks the door with some electronic card attached to his keychain, and the moment the door swings open, I let out an audible gasp. Ren doesn't seem fazed in the slightest as he flicks on the lights and walks into his own home, but I could only stand at the entrance to his foyer in shock. Yes, foyer. He had a whole dang foyer in his apartment. Was this even an apartment? Surely a penthouse would have made more sense. Holy crap, Ren. Is there something wrong? What is it? I know the decor is kind of tacky, but it came with the apartment, and I haven't found the time to do anything about it yet. I'm sorry, but are you the long-lost heir of a billionaire or something? This place is huge. And hello, is that marble? No, I get paid a lot from my job. Enough to afford rent, at least. You know, I don't think I've asked you this yet, but what exactly is your job? My job is, well, I guess you could say I'm a programmer. I don't know, I just take on a few jobs every so often. Nothing super fancy or anything. Nothing super fancy, Ren, you have marble flooring. Leaving the newly discovered programmer at the entrance, I curiously venture further into his apartment. Marble's a pain in the rear end to clean, too. Oh, Angel, do you want some slippers? The floors can get cold, and your shoes are probably soaked, right? Turning around, I notice Ren opening a small closet and pulling out a pair of dark house slippers. He looks at me with a curious expression, but makes no effort to hand them over. Only if you want them. I'll take them, but only because they look like they're Gucci. Ren lets out a puff of laughter through his nose at my joke, but doesn't seem to deny it. Were these slippers really from a luxury brand? As I put them on, I noticed how they were my exact size, and it made me wonder if he had bought a bunch of expensive house slippers in varying sizes. But as funny as that imagery was, how did Ren accurately guess my shoe size without seeing my feet? Here, why don't I show you to the bathroom? I'll find you something to wear in the meantime while your clothes are in the dryer. Or would you prefer a towel instead? I guess that would make more sense. Sorry, I usually don't invite people over. Seeing his timid side resurface once more gave me the sudden urge to tease him. You know, my first thought of where this was going was this, but, we're gonna go safe. Am I your first house guest? Maybe. I'm actually very picky with who I invite over, and I prefer to be on my own most of the time, so I don't usually bring people over. You never answered the question. I give him a teasing smile, and he shyly turns his head away instead. Anyway, I'll show you to the bathroom. You can use whatever you want in there, nothing is off limits. First, it was offering to spend the night at my place. Then it was asserting himself as my boyfriend in front of my friends. He really doesn't care about personal boundaries, huh? I was beginning to think that Ren didn't really seem to mind when it came to me invading his personal bubble as well. Though he still seemed pretty standoffish around Teo and Leon, and it took him a while to warm up to Eleanor back at the library. He even seemed indifferent when we first met Violet, but I figured it was only because he was shy. Speaking of being shy, I still noticed how Ren didn't seem to be switching up his personality as much anymore, and I was beginning to think that he was showing me his real side. Up until now, everything felt real and genuine, and I found that we could bounce back witty retorts between each other more easily. Though every now and again he might slip up and stutter, but I just assumed it was because my teasing made him flustered. So, maybe the timid side of him was genuine after all. But I'll leave some clothes for you outside and put the plushie I bought for you in your room. Huh? Oh, yeah, thanks. Great, I was zoning out again and completely missed half of what he was saying. Good. Something about clothes and a plushie he bought? Was he talking about the Haruko plushie I was eyeing up earlier? I mean, he was carrying a gift bag from that souvenir shop earlier. Did he really buy me that toy? Ren, however, doesn't seem to pick up on my confusion, though, and invitingly opens the bathroom door for me with a soft smile. And so, without trying to make things awkward, I quickly slip inside and lean against the door for support. Which was fortunate for me because one sweep of the bathroom had me stumbling back in surprise. Whoa. Even his restroom looked expensive. I was afraid of touching anything, fearing I'd accidentally break it and end up paying for it. Glancing around again, I noticed how his countertop seemed to be void of any dental care, hairbrushes, and skincare products, though a few bottles of concealer and an open box of hair dye sat in the corner near the sink. Well, I guess that answers my burning question on whether or not he naturally had pink hair. Now it made me wonder if Ren does dye his hair, then what is his natural hair color? There were still so many things I didn't know about that soft-looking guy, and I was beginning to question whether coming here was a good idea or not. With a sigh, I decided not to waste any more time thinking about irrelevant things, and instead turned my attention back to the shower. Quickly stripping out of my clothes, I jump into the unnecessarily large glass booth and turn the water on. Glancing at Ren's shelf of albeit limited hair and body products, I couldn't help but notice that one brand in particular just so happened to be the exact same as mine. Interesting. Did we use the same body wash? He didn't really smell like me, but maybe that was because I wasn't paying much attention. I mean, who randomly smells people out of the blue anyway? Shaking my head at such a silly notion, I begin to scrub away the lingering smell of rain from my body. Okay, the smell of rain? And quickly finish washing up. I want to know what the social media looks like. I just remembered social media again. No, there's nothing new? Damn. The tits on that man? Holy moly. Why are you in my social media? What the fuck? Okay. Bundled up in a warm towel, I crack open the large door and poke my head out into the hallway. True to his word, Ren left a small pile of clothing outside the bathroom, neatly stacked and propped against the side of the wall. Bringing the contents back inside, I noticed that one piece of clothing in particular was a rather comfy-looking hoodie. But the design on the front, however, was rather morbid-looking and didn't really suit Ren's vibes. Maybe from a horror film or something? Shrugging my shoulders, I put the hoodie on and instantly get enveloped by the sheer amount of fabric. I mean, it made sense considering Ren's large and lanky frame, but this was just absurd. I had to stifle a laugh from the amusing sight in the fogged-up mirror, but I had to admit that the soft fabric felt nice and warm against my skin. Even the scent that came from it felt oddly comforting somehow. Turning back to the remaining clothes in the pile, I gently pick up the next item and try to put it on. The gray sweatpants didn't seem to fit the length of my legs despite the number of times I tried to roll up the elastic, but luckily Ren was thoughtful enough to give me other alternatives. The dark pair of shorts seemed like the better option, especially since it came with a drawstring and deep pockets. Once I was fully dressed, I stepped out of the bathroom and aimlessly walked around until I heard the faint sounds of a TV playing. Feeling curious, I followed the source of the sound down the hallway. Eking news! A sudden storm hits the bay as gale force winds and knock over street signs and even awnings. Guests believe that this sudden change in weather will die down soon and to stay safe indoors. I continue to follow the noise until it suddenly cuts out and changes into a glaring monotone sound, indicating that the television must have lost all signal. And soon enough, I find myself in Ren's spacious lounge room. Aside from TV, the rest of the lights were off, but I could still make out most of the dark shapes within the room with ease. It was just as ostentatious as the rest of his house, though I couldn't help but feel like it lacked any form of life. It just didn't seem like somebody actually lived here. I had that feeling. A little bit. The furniture was gaudy yet tasteless. There was hardly any personal decoration or colors, and there was nothing that really screamed Ren to me. There were no personal touches, photos, items, hobbies, nothing. Just tacky furniture and the bland smell of something sterile. If I was being honest, it gave off the same vibe as a dentist clinic or a hospital. I mean, he did mention recently moving in, right? Maybe that's why. Who moved in? Surprised by the sudden voice, I spun on my heel, only to find Ren coming out from one of the hallways with a new set of comfy clothing. He seemed much more at ease like this, especially with a gentle expression on his face. Sorry, man, I keep looking at what looks like a heart on your hip bone. I watch as he takes— Listen, it's right on top of the text, right? I'm not looking for any reason. I watch as he takes a respectful glance at my attire before sheepishly averting his attention to the ends of his sleeve. Sorry, that's the only pair of clothing I could find that might fit you. It looks really good on you, though. Oh, thanks. You can even keep them if you want. The sound of thunder rumbling in the distance cuts off Ren's mumbling, and I involuntarily step closer to him. Without missing a beat, he reaches out and rests a protective hand on my shoulder to steady me. Ren idly glances out of the window before turning his undivided attention back to me once more, only this time with a determined look. It's really pouring, huh? I could only nod my head at his words, suddenly feeling sheepish all of a sudden. I really should have checked the weather forecast before I went out today. But to be fair, it didn't look as though it'd start spontaneously raining when I left my apartment this morning. And I guess I was enjoying my time with Ren to the point where I didn't even realize the weather was turning sour. Angel? Sorry, what did you just say? I just asked if you wanted to stay the night here, you know, seeing how hard it's raining out there and your clothes haven't finished drying yet. It'd be no trouble, and I could return the favor, considering how you let me stay at your apartment yesterday. Staying at his place for the night? Well, this certainly isn't how I expected to end my day. But would it really be that bad? It definitely beats waiting out the storm and walking home with a bunch of puddles everywhere. What does that mean? What does that mean? So I know that he fucks with the game. And that, like, you get choices that are glitched out with this, like this. But I thought it was only when you weren't doing good choices and he, like, kind of forces you into stuff. Or maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I know that this is his doing, though. That he's, like, reaching through the game to get me. Should I spend the night or should I spend the night? I wonder if there's a difference between, like, doing the normal text and doing the glitched text. Anyway. I guess I could stay if that's really okay with you. Yeah, of course, it's totally fine. Wow, he really was an energetic, eccentric man, wasn't he? Let me know if you need any more pillows or blankets. Or if the room gets too cold. I haven't worked out how to use the fancy heater system yet, but I can definitely try. Also, you already know where the bathroom is, but if you... Okay, I think I got it, Ren. I shoot him a reassuring smile as I turn to face him at the door. I should have gotten used to his attentive and observant behavior by now, but it still feels like a foreign side of him that I hadn't fully uncovered. Still, at least he wasn't stuttering as much anymore. I know, sorry. I just want you to be as comfortable as possible, so just treat this house like it's your own. Alright, gotcha. He looks like he doesn't want to leave and instead lingers in front of the door a little while longer. Are you sure there isn't anything else you need? Anything at all? No, I'm good, thanks. Alright then, if you need anything, my room is just 3 doors down. You don't even have to knock, just let yourself in, okay? In fact, you can even share my bed if you... okay, gotcha. But I think I'll knock, just to be safe. You really don't have to, but alright. Well, if that's everything, I'll let you get some sleep now. Good night, Kit. Sweet dreams. I watch in silence as Ren turns on his heel and makes his way towards his own room down the hall. Shaking my head at his odd behavior, I close the door behind me and slowly make my way towards the bed. I noticed that the Haruko plushie Ren had bought earlier was sitting atop the sheets, and I gently bring it closer to my chest to give it a soft squeeze. So he really did buy this for me after all. The faintest hint of cherry and mint emits from the toy. It makes my mind drift to thoughts of that strange pink-haired man once more. He was still odd as usual, but some parts of him were starting to feel rather endearing. I noticed how he was no longer stuttering as much or acting as shy, and it made me wonder if we were getting closer. Now that I really thought about it, how did I feel about Ren? Ooh, personally, I'm in between these two. I think a little bit more towards, I think he's alright. I think I want to like him, like I said before. But right now it's just kind of like, he's okay. He's fine. I feel like we'd have to wait a little bit for this. I think he's alright. What was there to say? We still didn't know each other that well, but he seemed very kind and considerate towards me. Yeah. I feel like I just needed to get to know Ren better before I could decide on a strong opinion of him. Maybe we could get closer in the future. You'd have to actually try and put the effort in though, because right now it felt like I was doing all the work. Well, there was no point in me stressing over something so trivial. Rolling onto my side, I hugged the plushie closer and slowly drift off to sleep. Hold on, social media check. Damn, nobody ever changes their social media. Sorry, I really like the tits on that man. Right underneath just a picture of Teo's chest. Yippee! Okay, let's save here. And I feel like that is actually a pretty good description of my feelings with this game in general. I really want to like it, but I'm finding it rather neutral, just kind of okay. I don't hate it. I don't love it. It just exists. Still, I do want to see what happens in the next few days. I want to see a little bit more of this game before I fully decide whether or not I like it or dislike it. And so, we'll be continuing on. But with all that being said, I'm going to go ahead and end this episode here for now. So thank you for watching this episode. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next one for some more 14 Days with You.